Hello YouTube, welcome to another episode of Whoniverse Reviewniverse. In this episode I'm going to be reviewing Death to the Daleks. This is story number 72 with Jon Pertwee as the third Doctor. The story aired early in 1974 and significant for a couple reasons. This is an episode that was filmed on a set-by-set basis, a lot like movies are filmed. Rather than the traditional, at the time for Doctor Who, episode-by-episode filming, which means that they would have a set and they would film all scenes that needed to be filmed on that set, and then they would move on to the next, so on and so forth. So, and actually they said that it confused the actors a little bit just because they had no idea what was going on in the story, because they weren't filming like they were used to, which was filming in order as the episode goes along. The story is basically that the TARDIS runs out of power. They land really quick on this planet of the Exelons, and they are met by some humans who are a mining crew, and they're mining for a mineral that is a cure to some missiles that Daleks have been shooting at them that are causing a plague. So they are met by some locals called Exelons. Those are the aliens that live on this planet. And the Exelons are a very raggedy looking being, I guess, and they have huge eyes. And actually this came out in 1974. Star Wars came out in 1977, and I kind of think that this might have aired, and George Lucas kind of took a couple tips for his Tusken Raiders. If you look at an Exelon and compare with a Tusken Raider, you might notice a little bit of similarity there. So, I'm not saying that George Lucas plagiarizes, but it very similar, we'll say that. So, anyway, the Exelons are the main focus for the first part of the first episode, and then the Daleks land. It's not a straight away kind of thing. They land, come out, and start trying to shoot, but they can't. They're out of power as well. This is significant for the fact that in the first ever appearance of the Daleks, they were moving around by using static electricity. This episode, or this story, confirms that they are somewhat evolving, I guess, so to say, and they now use telekinesis. That is established in this story, that they use telekinesis to move. However, they must be using electricity of some sort, not necessarily static electricity, but electricity of some sort to use their weapons, and they can't use them here. So they have to come up with an alternative. So, in the meantime, they team up with the Doctor and the Exelons and the humans, and their main focus is to try to get the power back on for the planet. So, Daleks obviously are going to have a different plan, and behind everybody's back they're trying to make their own weapons. Different, like more of a gun than a ray gun kind of thing. And they have a model TARDIS, which they set up on a table, which it seems as though they have many of these, and they use it as target practice. It's pretty funny. Anyway, it's not just about the Daleks. This is actually more, I would say this story's more about the Exelons than the Daleks, even though the story title is Death to the Daleks. So, the Doctor and Sarah end up going underground later on and find there's another faction of Exelons that have been living underground for a long time. So long so that they're slightly different. They're much shorter, they kind of glow in the dark, so they must have evolved separately. The Doctor later on goes to see the old Exelon city, which has a mind of its own, and it's a maze, and he says it's one of the 700 wonders of the universe. So the Doctor goes into the city with an underground Exelon named Bilal that helps him out, and although Sarah Jane Smith never goes into the actual Exelon city, the Doctor must tell her about it or something, and tell her about his experience, because later on in the Pyramids of Mars, she brings it up. It says how the pyramids are similar to the mazes inside the Exelon city. So that's just a little bit of continuity there for you. The first encounter with the Daleks for Sarah Jane Smith in this episode. She encounters them later on, but this is her introduction to the Daleks. The Doctor says something along the lines of, inside the Dalek is a lump of hate. This is also the last Dalek story not featuring Davros until Dalek, the episode introducing the Daleks into the 9th Doctor story, with Rose and Christopher Eccleston as the Doctor, and every single Dalek story in between Death to the Daleks and Dalek has Davros in it. The very first DVD feature is Beneath the City of the Exelons, which is the behind the scenes. This DVD actually doesn't have a specific behind the scenes. It kind of has two separate ones. This one being one of them. It's only 26 minutes, and it's narrated by a Dalek, which is kind of cool. Much more of a behind the scenes in this. Sometimes they just kind of gloss over the storyline and maybe some writing and more history. This one's more of a behind the scenes in the time of the filming, I would say. At least it seemed that way when I was watching the featurette. So it's also it's even though it's kind of short, it's only 26 minutes, and mostly these things are running about 40 minutes or above, 40-50 minutes. This one was only 26 minutes, and it was pretty informative for being so short. The next featurette is called Studio Recording, simply called Studio Recording. It's 23 minutes, and this has just a whole bunch of behind the scenes from one day of shooting, from one set. Like I said earlier, that it was filmed on a set-by-set basis. So this is the set that is the Doctor and Sarah Jane at the very final part of the 4th episode where they're watching the Exelon City. It's also some of the scenes where they were getting shot at and shooting at the Exelons from when they first see them with humans, and I like this kind of stuff. I really like these kind of watching the behind the scenes. It has like little blurbs at the bottom of the screen telling you kind of what's going on or who they're talking about if they say somebody's name. They also have, it's pretty cool to see that instead of what we're used to nowadays with a green screen, and I remember years ago it was blue screen, they have a yellow screen. And it's funny, kind of the Daleks, they have a lot of the actors inside the Daleks have a lot of vision problems with like tunnel vision and not being able to see exactly where they're going, and so they have a lot of problems because their ship is now green screen, I guess yellow screen then, kind of put in there, so they have to go behind a yellow screen. And let's say this is the yellow screen and this is the Dalek, and they'll go through, but then they'll go through to the other side and you could see them and it would mess up the take, so they would have to do another take. And it's interesting to see this kind of stuff. I don't know, I really like seeing this kind of stuff. The next featurette is called On the Set of Doctor Who and the Daleks. It's only 7 minutes long, and it shows a couple mute film clips that still exist. There's not really a behind the scenes that they can do for that movie, and I'm not sure how many people would want to see it. It kind of doesn't really fit on this DVD. It's kind of out of place. It would better fit on a DVD release of Doctor Who and the Daleks. However, the movie was really poorly received, and it still is kind of poorly received even amongst fans. However, there are a few that have made it their little cult classic. Next extra on the disc is Doctor Who Stories Dalek Men. This is like this done in the same fashion as the Doctor Who Stories episode on the previous disc, my previous review, The Crotons. It's 13 minutes long. It was filmed from some interviews in 2003, and it just basically talks about it's 2 interviews with different Dalek operators that were there from pretty much the beginning with the William Hartnell days, and they just go over really what it was like to be a Dalek. They also, one of them goes over, he was also one of the giant ants, and the other goes over what it was like to be the Slither. So that's a really informative interview series. It's only 13 minutes, like I said. It's pretty short, but it's fun to watch. Then they have the final feature on the disc is the Coming Soon. It's just a trailer for the Crotons, which, from what I understand, the Daleks Rule did a review of this DVD for the UK version, and he says that the Crotons was a coming soon on his disc as well, which is kind of weird. I see that they carried it over because I understand that in the UK, the Death to the Daleks and the Crotons were released separately, not the same day. If I'm right, I might be completely and utterly wrong, but I know here in the US they were released the same day, so I don't know why it's on the Coming Soon. Doesn't really make sense, especially since the Crotons has the greatest show in the galaxy, which is actually a Coming Soon, not coming same time as today. So it's kind of confusing that they did that. By the way, check out the Daleks Rule. His review is on this DVD. I'll put a link to it here and in the show notes down there, and check it out. I watched this story on the VHS format, and the difference in between the VHS quality and the DVD quality is astounding. It's not the normal VHS to DVD. You can actually tell the enhancement they've made to the quality of the picture. And it's a really good difference. They just remastered it. They didn't go through and put in digital Ewoks or Yodas anywhere. And that's it for this review. Stay tuned and keep checking back. I'm going to have a review up sometime soon. I try to do this once a week. I'm not really sure how often I'm going to be able to do this. Sometimes I pop them up, like this week I've had 3 up just because I had the 2 reviews and the unboxing. I'm going to try to do these reviews and unboxings of the brand new releases as soon as I can. If you guys have any suggestions of any episodes you want me to review or watch, or any tips or tricks on anywhere you know where to buy. I know I've had a couple questions, 1 or 2 in the comments sections, and a couple personal messages that people have sent me on YouTube asking where to get these. In the US, I know the 2 best places online are Walmart's website and Amazon's website. Walmart kind of doesn't really have the newer discs as soon as they come out. They have some older ones, but they do have 2 or 3 cents off, and you can get them site to store shipping, which is free most of the time. And Amazon is where I get all my pre-orders from, and they're really good about having lower prices when they first come out. However, once you get into the point where you're buying them used, they're a couple months old to 2 or 3 years old each, you're going to be paying almost the same used as you would new, and the new is not really cheap. They're like 25 bucks. It's like collecting anime. You're going to pay a lot because it's an import. Now, when you're around town, you might want to stop in some used DVD places because you never know where you might find some. I stopped in a place we have here called FYE. It's a new and used trade, buy, sell kind of place for DVDs, music, and video games. And I just stopped in there one day to kind of browse through and see what they had and see what their prices were. I remember when I was younger, they used to be a completely overpriced place, and so I stopped in just because I was checking it out one time, and I found tons of old Doctor Who classics sets, and not really that old, just like maybe 2009 releases, and they were really cheap. And they were about half of the lowest price of the used DVDs on Amazon. So there's some tips. You might also want to check some thrift stores and pawn shops, maybe. Just check everywhere. So there's my tip. See you next time.